Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Jeff. This is an occasion where I would normally have a nice song lined up.
Yeah.
Like just with a terribly off-key, poorly written parody.
Yeah.
But not today. I'll tell you, I am pretty tired of spending my creative energy on that. So what I am doing is figuring out how to use GarageBand, and we're gonna have a real theme song, folks.
What?
We're gonna do a real theme song. Maybe next week, maybe in 3 weeks. I'm very bad at following through on things, as our longtime readers know. But yeah, so
This is our top 10 list.
This is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers, and with me is Jeff Newser.
Yeah.
Man, we have a men's basketball win to talk about.
You know what that calls for? You know what that calls for?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you should have told me. I would have waited to crack mine.
That's all right. I figured it was more dramatic because I've been like, I'm not drinking beer right now.
Yeah, I know.
Now I'm
maybe
drinking
you should have
beer,
been.
though.
Maybe that's why they were losing.
Maybe you know what? Maybe that's true, but I didn't have a beer during the game, and they won that one. So now I'm having a celebratory beer. I even waited. I didn't have one on February 1st. I waited until February 2nd when I was on the show with you.
Well, there you go.
I wanted my first time in February to be special, Craig.
Yeah, and still have an old beer just waiting for you.
I know. I should be able to, like, okay, so you know this, the listeners don't. So it's end of semester time, which is the easily the worst part of any teacher's school year. Like, it's not even close because you're trying to get, grades done and stuff finished, and I've got seniors, which means I'm trying desperately to help them pass, and then you've also got a new semester coming, so you don't get to there's nothing on the other side. It's like at the end of the school year, that's the end of a semester, but you're not, there's no classes the next week. So I've been in the middle of that. I haven't been able to, I think I've left my house to go to the grocery store, and that's about it for the last week. So in fact, I probably should be grading right now, but this sounded more fun. So
yeah, we could only wait so long.
I know.
We already put it off an extra day. To talk about just an ass kicking of a beautiful, beautiful ass kicking that Kyle Smith's Washington State Cougars squad put on Mike Hopkins' moribund UW Huskies.
No way, they were red hot, Craig.
Well, they're moribund now. Suck it.
How did they beat Utah and Colorado? That's what I mean.
Because they hit a billion threes.
I know how they did it. So it's that those two games. I wonder if we're going to look back on those two games the same way we look back on Ernie Kent's Arizona trip.
Well, I see. The one thing that's different is they still played shitty defense in those games.
That's true.
They just shot it. Well, the thing that was crazy about those Ernie Kent ones is because they shot it really well and they combined. So
and
they
just
beat
defense.
the hell out of it. Yeah. But it's funny when I was writing the last second preview that I wrote when I messaged you an hour before the game and went oh shit, I've been busy all day and I totally forgot to write a preview. It's not that I knew that there was a game. I was looking forward to the game. I told Amanda hey, I gotta have all my projects, we gotta have all these house projects done by before 5 because I got a game to watch, all that stuff. But I in that math I totally forgot to write the actual preview that I always write, so I threw one together and I don't try to make super grand declarations in those previews. I just kind of be this is what it looks like, this is what it'll probably look like, this is how it goes. But I made sure to point out quite a few times that UW won those games because they hit 24 or 49 from three, over a 2-game span. And
it seemed unlikely to continue.
Yeah, so I had a pretty decent feeling, at least, that, you know, if they would just come back to earth 3-point shooting, like, we had a pretty good chance, because they, you know, we pretty much, I loved what they did. They just exploited every weakness that UW has. Like, they just went right at their kind of smallish front line. Like, obviously they have 7'4" Riley Storm, but he's a twig.
And he doesn't play that much.
And he doesn't play. He plays, like, you know, I think he played a little more in that game, as you could have predicted, because in the first half, and then they figured out that he was just getting picked on. But yeah, so they went right at him with, like, a post up to Deshaun Jackson in the very first play of the game. And then the tone was set. Obviously they made that little run because they hit like 3 threes. And so they made it 13-12 after WSU was up 12-2. So you're like, crap. Are they going to do this again? Like, are they seriously going to like make all their threes again? But they didn't, man. And,
they did not.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they never made enough of them to really make it all that interesting. I mean, there was, like you said, that little pullback there where they hit a few, and it was like, okay, well, maybe
that's really the only part of the. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Like, I just remember, you know, on last week's show, I was like, yeah, let them bomb away from 3. And then I looked at it and I went, oh, wait a second. Actually, it wasn't just last week. It was, you know, they'd been shooting pretty well for a while. But, you know, as you pointed out, extremely 3 reliant, right? Like, and they had been good from 2 as well. And that was the part where I was most encouraged by the game. We'll circle back to that in a sec. But, you know, I was like, you know, really kind of everything had been hinging on their 3-point shooting, and it had been so good. And so, you know, you kind of knew, okay, well, if they have an off game of some variety, then, you know, they'll probably be in trouble, or at the very least they'll be, you know, not scorching everything and, you know, making it so that it would be, you know, real tough for us to keep up. You know, and sure enough, they were just, you know, okay from 3, right? I mean, they shot about their normal number of threes, which was 25. That's kind of right about where they've been for a while now. Only made 9 of them, which, you know, isn't terrible, but also
that's a good. I mean, if WSU would have made that percentage, they would have ran like it would not even close.
Would have been a 25-point game.
Yeah,
if we'd made 9.
Of course, there's very likelihood that on those missed threes that WSU grabbed
an offensive rebound.
We'll talk about that again.
Yeah, I mean that's what was so wild. Like I don't think we want to talk about Washington too much, but man, did they look bad, and not like in a God, they look lifeless, and they look, you know, poorly coached, and yeah, I was sort of surprised by that, and we were definitely, you know, we did not look like the team that had lost 6 in a row. You know, we looked like the team that just had the energizing wins and were ready to bring the noise. And I think some of that is, you know, having Isaac Bonton and Noah Williams, right? Having those 2 guys leading you, and you know, just seeing this game as just a little bit different. But yeah, one team looked like it was ready, and the other team. You know, I don't know what the other team was thinking, but they just kind of got the brakes beat off them all over the floor. And really, I mean, the 15-point game is not representative of, you know, we've said that a few times this year, but, you know, and I'm sure some of that just has to do with, you know, being a young team and maybe gaps being a little closer than they should be. But I mean, the only reason it was close, even that close, was, you know, UW pressed them at the end, and we made some very silly turnovers and missed a bunch of free throws as usual. And so
they were trying some like dumb passes. It was, I mean, they ended up with a super high turnover rate. Like, if you would have told me that they would come in and have an 18 turnovers, 24% turnover rate before the game, I'd be like, they are fucked, man. But yeah, I guess what we've said is like, what we said before the game is like, that's just who they are now. They turn the ball over a lot. So if they do everything else well, like grab 49% of your own misses is absurdly high.
Especially for us. Like,
I gotta look at the all-time numbers here, where that ranks in the KenPom era. There
have definitely been some that have been bigger. I think I looked at it. we've had
it didn't make
quite
it
a
into
few
the
over
top
50%.
10.
Yeah, we've had quite a few over 50%, but still.
Yeah, it's funny. 9 of the top 10 are wins, except for a loss to UW in 2003 when they grabbed 56% of their rebounds. But a lot of these, the only UW, UCLA, and Oregon State, 3 of the top 10 are the rest are like terrible teams. So it was good to see, but we kind of knew they could because UW just doesn't have a lot of size. They play basically a 4-guard lineup at this point because they're just hoping for any. I think that's been fueling their offensive surge. But I think maybe Hop has just given up on defense. But yeah, let's talk about the Cougs, man. Like, the way Noah Williams approaches this game is like every diehard Coug fan, like diehard Coug Facebook group, like fans dream of what like Mike Leach would do in that, like in the football Apple Cup. Like they just wish so hard. And the way like Noah Williams approaches playing UW, just like every Coug fan who's tired of their UW office mates in their ear every year about this and that, and like he's just the most enormous chip on his shoulder and just loves talking shit, just relentlessly talking shit, and he backed it up in this game even with getting tossed, like still like backed it up, and just like they were too small, as he said, too small to cover
repeatedly.
Apparently one too many times.
Man,
it's fun to, I know you've talked about it. We've talked about it, how easy he is to love. But when he just puts it on UW like he's done now 3 times, like it's so great to watch.
It's absolutely wild. I mean, he approaches that game like somebody insulted his mom or something. Like, I mean, it's like he's defending someone's honor, which, of course we love, right? I mean, he's basically defending our school, right? So, just watching the way that he goes about it, the focus, the intensity. There's certain guys who get a little bit turned up by the trash talk, and he certainly seems to be one of them. And he, and I think it probably also isn't a coincidence that there's just a little more distance between that hard fall and now.
Of course.
For obviously the first weekend he came back, he did not look healthy at all. And then, second weekend looked better, obviously looked better. This was the first time I think he looked, fully healthy. He was not afraid to mix it up, was not afraid of contact, was, back to his, stealing the ball. He did that a few times, got a couple fast break layups out of the deal. He was just, he was doing all the stuff that we kind of fell in love with at the beginning of the year. But the only thing he didn't do great is he was 2 of 7 from 3.
Which is so funny. If someone had told you that Noah was going to be a 29% free throw shooter or 3-point shooter this year, you'd probably be like, yeah, that's fine. Like if he bumps it up to that, then cool.
Yeah.
He was 2 of 7.
He's just been so good that, oh man, he only made 2 of 7. Like
he's also a guy that's going to shoot 7 now, but 6 and 7, 5 to 7 pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And since he started doing that, he's really kept his percentage and even like risen it. Like, so, he's like, we say it every week, like the dude's just a legit 3-point shooter at this point.
He is.
Like it's so nuts. Like, and he, I honestly, he was 2 of 7 cause he took some really tough ones.
Yep.
Like, especially like Bonton sat for a couple minutes and he took some tough ones there. And yeah, he just, and I think maybe the game, the playing against UW, he kind of he was a little anxious and wanted to hit some big shots and probably took some tougher shots than he normally would because his shooting percentage overall wasn't great, but he went 7 of 8 from the free throw line. Yeah, he still ended up with a 122.0 rating because he only turned the ball over 2 times with all that possession he was using. Just 3 offensive rebounds, 3 steals, just like the stat sheet filler that he is, but with like like an assassin's scoring mentality. It's awesome.
And he did it with, what we've kind of gotten used to, which is an array of moves, right? Like, he's an opportunistic scorer, I would say. With Bonton maybe being, sort of the go-to guy who will, force the action from time to time. He'll push the pace. He'll find the creases. Noah seems to be at this point a little bit more of an opportunistic guy, right? He, a run out on a fast break, an assist on a three. Someone will find him spotting up for a three, etc. But you need that guy, right? Like you don't need two or more, lead guys. What you really need is, it's the Batman and Robin thing, right? Like you need the guy who's there to fill those spaces that, can't be covered while people are paying attention to, Isaac Bonton. And that's what Williams has done so great. And like we said at the beginning of the year, he's got to shoot. He's got to shoot threes. He's got to shoot threes. He's got to make some threes. He's got to at least be a threat out there, right? And it's like, and now he is, and you're seeing what that does for the offense, where, and how it opens up also his 2-point drives. His 2-point percentage is still a little lowish. It's like 46%. You'd rather that be 48, 49, something like that.
He's still not like a super strong guy. He's very wiry still, but still that has improved a huge.
It's improved, yeah.
That's exactly
what I was going to say. Is some of that is that he's spacing the floor, gaps are there that maybe weren't there last year, and he's able to get to the rim more now than he was a year ago. It seemed like last year there was a lot of settling for floaters, settling for mid range, and I don't mind those shots. I mean, he's still taking plenty of those because that's something that he is good at. But you also, if you can get to the rim, you'd rather get to the rim because those are the highest percentage shots, right? And in fact, he had one almost monster dunk. Oh, that was so close. I know he was fouled. I know he got bumped off it a little bit, but man, it was like, I just felt like he should have finished it, and then it would have. My house would have been in 13 pieces.
I would have lost it. I mean, he definitely saw the lane and he saw Soren, and he's like, I want to dunk on the 7'4" guy. Like that's your target when you're that tall. If you're over 7 feet, like any guard is going to be like, I got to dunk on that guy, and he almost did. If he, I don't know, like he almost did, and yeah, it's so fun to see him, and honestly, like the techs are kind of bullshit, but
once you get a reputation, it's really tough to shake it, and the arenas are quiet. Refs hear everything right now, and so everything he does, everything he says, people are hearing, and he's obviously got a reputation. So he's getting these, bullshit technical fouls, and, because refs are obsessed with, sportsmanship is very important, just whatever. I don't care, man. Talk all the shit you want. Don't ever stop.
So I wanted to put some numbers behind what you were saying about how he's going to the rim more.
Yeah.
And overall, of course, he's not going to the rim. Like, he's not shooting a many percentage of his shots at the rim because he's shooting so many more three-pointers. So last year, just about 17% of his shots were three-pointers. This year, that's more than doubled. It's now at 37%. So his percentage of shots at the rim in total have dropped down. But when you look at compared to two-point jumpers, this year, 35% of his shots are at the rim, where only 28% of his shots are two-point jumpers, and that's a good evolution of your game, to shoot more threes, shoot more and then as a percentage of two-pointers, shoot more of your shots at the rim. Because last year he did shoot 41% of his shots at the rim, so that was more, but he shot 42% of his shots as two-point jumpers, so the floaters and the pull-ups that you're talking about. So last year, he's went from 42% of his shots as mid-range shots to just 28%, and he's shooting those threes at double the rate, and he's hitting them at quadruple the rate. Like, so, like, it's such an incredible, change in his game. Just adding that 3-pointer. And then, like you said, it allows him to it allows those drives to go a little farther when the defender has to sneak up on you a little more. It allows you to get by them quicker and get there before the defense can collapse and help. So it's just, he's so fun to watch now. And like you said, he very clearly is healthy again. And that's huge. And you kind of start to think back, I want to talk about Bonton in a second too, but you think back, like, this was, the WSU wasn't even whole in this game, but it was probably one of the closer games to them being whole, because they were missing about 10 minutes from Bamba probably, but that's kind of an easier one to handle than like missing Rapp, where he was, playing more like 20 minutes or so and taking care of the ball, doing ball handling duties and stuff. But like, WSU hasn't had Rapp much, and then even when they got Rapp finally back, he didn't play very much, and then Bonton was out when he finally was able to play more. So finally, Bonton's back, Rapp. So they have their full guard rotation for the first time since before Cal, and so that's a huge deal. Like, to be able to have 3 guards that you trust and can play for long minutes, that can handle the ball. And that's, I was thinking about that. Like, maybe this is just, we're finally seeing them. It would help to play a bad team, but it also, WSU, you weren't thinking they were going to beat anybody like this, how they've been playing for the last couple weeks. But just to see them whole again, and Bamba was out with a toothache, so hopefully he'll be back in full. Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah,
those are painful.
Yeah, ouch. But yeah, so I know you were writing something. Obviously, you're not done with it, but
yeah, that's correct.
We got to like, so people like to talk about Isaac Bonton. Obviously, I think that people have figured out that we're both big Isaac Bonton fans. Like we're not, like, we're defenders of Isaac Bonton pretty frequently on this podcast. But
Heck
man,
yeah.
So right now on Bonton's sort of resume, he's got the Clay game. He won the Clay game, and I said after that, like, he is a legend forever for what he did against Oregon State to, like, make sure that they won that game. And so, whatever, that's on your ledger. And then last year at UW, he was huge, so he's got that. And now he's got this year at UW, where he was the best player on the floor, and like, just he was so good. Like, when he's hitting those, like, tough shot, like, when he just feels so good that he's gonna hit those, like, floaters in the lane where he's hanging too long and throws it off the glass, or that spin around to set a 6'10", 6'11"
with, like,
guy
with the old
shot.
Man underhanded scoop shot. Ugh.
And
I
then
mean, that's why I said on Twitter, I was like, if you don't love Isaac Bonton, you probably hate fun. Like that's where I've landed, because I get it early. Like, I totally understood early in the year, and I kind of understood last year, and I get it. Like, not everybody watches the team as closely as you and I do. And we watch the team really, really, really closely, and we parse all the numbers, down to, ridiculous levels, like we just did with, like, Noah Williams and what percentage of shots were. I mean, like we are really, really, really tuned in. And I certainly don't expect everybody else is going to maybe necessarily be quite as tuned in. But what I do know is this, that, like, you can't watch, like, a couple of games early in the year, and then, well, I mean, you can, but it's like, you end up looking very silly if you just watch a couple games early in the year, you make up your mind about a guy, and then that's it. And you never change your mind, no matter what happens. Like, it just, like I'll never quite understand that, because, number one, when you're dealing with college players, like, these guys are not finished products. Like, this is why, you're paying coaches all the money you're paying them. Like, Like this ain't the NBA. These guys aren't, kind of who they are at this point. These guys are still developing. They're still kind of figuring things out. And what we've seen with Isaac Bonton is a remarkable transformation. Like we knew he had the ability to be a potent scorer in him. Like we saw it last year. You mentioned the Clay game. Like that wasn't the only game last year. And then, of course, last year we saw kind of what happened to that offense when he was out, right? And how much, just kind of having him and Ellaby taking, almost all the shots was kind of what had to happen, right? Okay, so Ellaby's gone. Beginning of the year, obviously Bonton seems to be feeling that pressure. He's, trying so desperately hard to carry that with a whole bunch of freshmen around him and sophomores, and he just is not doing it, right? And he's out of control. He's getting himself in really bad spots where he can't really do anything with the ball. He's too far into the basket. He's not real great at drawing contact when he's going to the rim. Just all these things where you just go, And so I understood why people were kind of like, he's kind of killing the offense right now, and maybe let somebody else shoot. And so I totally understood it. Conference play starts. Well, of course, the Oregon State game, whatever. It's like the third game of the year, so whatever. But Arizona, really the really sort of beginning of conference play. And since then, he has had one bad game, one like so-so game, one like above average game, and like 5 or 6 great games. And when I say great, I mean I'm talking like for this game, his offensive rating for this game was 116. Okay, so we've said this before on the show. Like a neutral offensive rating would be like 100. But then it kind of scales, your expectations kind of scale up and down depending on how many possessions a guy is using. The more shots he's taking, the more, passes he's making, et cetera, the harder it is to be efficient. So you normally expect higher usage guys to have lower efficiency ratings. Like that's just kind of a deal. But when you find a guy who's both high volume usage and high efficiency, like that's when you've got a deal. So let me tell you, Craig will back me up on this. 116 on 30% possessions is really fucking good. Like that's like win a game by yourself kind of good. Just so good. By the way, Noah Williams was 122 on 26%. That's a pretty damn good 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
And especially when both those guys played 36 minutes and 38 minutes. So between the two of them, they played average 37 minutes. So that's a hella good 1-2 punch. Like Bonton's been doing that more than not since Arizona. And I'll never quite understand why people can't get off their spots. I suspect part of it is that, again, people just aren't watching the team quite as closely. They float in, they float out, they make up their mind, and that's just kind of the deal. And, they probably watch the UW game and think like my friend Chris does, where he's like, I just want him to be this good against good teams, not just bad teams. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? We've been over this. Like, he's been awesome, except for one really terrible game. So that's it.
Against Tier A on KenPom, which would be a top 50 team or a top 75 team that, his aren't that strict. It's more of a rating, but just say roughly that.
Top 50 at home, top 75 on the road.
Basically that. So it's basically you can think of it as quadrant 1. Is similar to quadrant 1. So he implemented that to kind of match the NCAA. I can't remember if he did it. Actually, I think he did it before. So whatever, we'll give him that credit. So against the Tier A teams, which would be the Stanford game, UCLA game. So actually, Arizona at home counts as Tier B. So I think it's even less. It's even a tougher game at home. So Colorado at home, USC, UCLA, and Stanford. Those are the 4 Tier A games, and those are 4 of the best defenses that they've played, aside from UCLA. But USC, Colorado, Stanford, very good defenses. He is taking a ridiculous 32% possession usage rate, an absurd almost 37% of the shots when he's on the floor in those games. And his offensive rating is 112.4, which okay, so you want him to play good against the good teams? He has over and over and over again. You could say that he wasn't good against Utah. Yeah, I mean, you didn't hear last year everyone ragging on CJ Ellaby when he had a bad game, and CJ had some awful, awful games last year against good teams. Remember the Arizona game when he was 1 of 8. Remember that UCLA game where he hit the game tying 3. He was awful in that game. Like, and he had been awful against USC the game before. Like, he had a tough, like, he was up and down quite a bit because they're college basketball players. And guess what? CJ was drafted and he's in the NBA. Like, this happens. But what Isaac has done since conference play, or since the turn of the year, really has been remarkable. And it was just, it's a bummer that it has been coupled with WSU having some roster issues, playing some really tough teams on the road. So they really weren't able to take advantage of those good games. But guess what they did? And they did against Purple. So, like, they took advantage of his good game against the Purple team in Seattle. Like, it's great. Like, he fucked around with the Huskies, and he just, like, toyed with them for 40 minutes, and it was hilarious and awesome. And it's fun to watch him and Noah, just go after someone like that. And we got to say, like, a lot of other guys had great games too. Like, it was.
But he, like, what I love about him is he plays with an edge, but also with a joy. Like, he smiles on or around the floor probably more than anyone. And he's just like, I mean, I don't know, like, the hair's flying everywhere. Like I just don't know how you don't love the kid. Like, just watch him. He comes up big in big games. He comes up big in big moments. He's playing at an all Pac-12 first team level right now, and that's with teams giving him tons and tons of attention defensively. The only team that's been able to successfully kind of shut him down in conference play is Utah. That's it. That's the list. Like, and that includes
virus. The team of
the flu virus. Yeah. And, like, the rest of everybody else, nobody else has shut him down. Arizona has not shut him down. Colorado has not shut him down. Washington didn't shut him down. USC didn't shut him down. I mean, it's like I don't know what more you want from a kid. Like, he loves being a Coug. He plays super hard all the time. His motor never stops. He's crafty. He pulls off all sorts of fun shit all the time. Like, I don't know, man. People who can't appreciate that, I question how much joy they have in their life if they just walk around just depressed and dour all the time and being sad.
Shots fired.
Because I'm like, oh God, you should like everybody should love this kid. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. The only thing I can think of is that people just made up their minds. They haven't really watched the team very much, especially during, a 6-game losing streak. And I know, like, people be like, well, who cares what he did when they lost 6 games? Like, well, it ain't his fucking fault. Like, he's been amazing. It's just that, maybe the team wasn't as good, or the defense maybe wasn't as good. Like he's doing his part. But listen, these are the same fans that, went bonkers over Klay Thompson last spring, and I guarantee you a non-zero number of people were in that arena who, like 10 years ago were like, Klay Thompson pouts too much. Like, the team just doesn't win enough. Like, he can take a fucking million shots, but it doesn't matter. Like, we remember.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
We have the receipts. We were there. Like,
we actually probably have the receipts in the game. Yeah. If you check the comments on
check the game
Coug
threads
Center
from back in the
2011, 2010.
Yep.
Yeah.
People just being like, oh, he's a little too pouty. They don't win enough games. I mean, if Klay was a real, stud, they'd be winning more and they'd be the NCAA tournament. Like, people, there are some people that are just unpleasable. And I feel bad for those people. Cause to be honest, have some fun, man. Let it go. Enjoy what these guys do and have a little fun. Cause there's so much excitement building, and I know people are like, yes, I'm excited about the direction of the program, but I don't really like what Bonton does. I wish he'd let, the freshmen develop. Like, why are we worrying about freshmen developing when we're trying to win games right now?
Yeah, I want to win as many games as possible, and I like watching a good player go off, and that's fun.
Yeah.
And speaking of letting the freshmen develop,
yeah,
we have now 2 bona fide studs in the front court who are freshmen and who were just absolutely owned UW in this game. And F.A. Abogidi, who desperately needed a game like this. And then Deshaun Jackson, who's been playing like this for, a few games. And so, man, that's, F.A. had 5 offensive rebounds. Like, he was the one. And then it's funny, like, it wasn't just them grabbing the boards. They were forcing UW, knocking the ball out off of them quite a lot. Like, but F.A. was really, he was kind of the fuel behind a lot of those. Like, he was just making it really hard for UW to grab rebounds. Like, and he was just back to his self, 13 and 13. 2 ridiculous dunks. Like, it was fun to see him, have a good game inside again. Like, it was fun to see him do that and just pick on some people inside.
This was the first team in a while that hasn't been able to just body him like crazy. Because that's pretty obviously the where his game needs to develop the most is his strength, right? Like, this is a guy who had knee injuries. Well, guess what? When you got knee injuries, you're not doing a whole lot of lower body workouts, and that's obviously where he needs to get better. His legs need to get stronger, and he needs to be able to hold his position better. Well, he plays this team, and they zone him up, gives him lots and lots of room to roam around and jump and get his hands on balls, and so I think that had a lot to do. He was just a lot more freedom of movement for him, and the ability to get into space and just be athletic, which was great. And then Jackson, you mentioned they went right to him right out of the gate and post move and one right off the top.
He's got moves, man.
He has so exceeded what I ever thought he could be this year. And I don't know, obviously I didn't have any great sense of what he could be, but watching him the first couple games he played, and granted he was coming off an injury, so that probably wasn't totally fair, but I just kind of watched him. I'm like, I really like the way he moves around the floor. I doubt he's going to be much of a scoring presence, but he'll probably get the odd catch and dunk and that kind of stuff. And it seems like every game, man, he expands his arsenal, and the thing that he does way better than so many big men, like, he is so far ahead of the curve on this, is he has such a good feel for where the defender is.
Yes.
And he almost never, I can't remember the last time he was called for an offensive foul. Certainly not in the post. I think he may have had one where somebody kind of fed him as he was cutting to the rim, like on a fast break or something, and he ran someone over. But he has this great ability of catching the ball. And just rather than going straight to the rim, he'll kind of give at least a little half turn and kind of look and see who's there. And a lot of times, and this is the other thing, a lot of times when guys do that allows the defense to catch up. But he almost looks at it like, okay, I'm assessing where everybody is, which means, okay, that guy's here. Okay, it's a little guy. If I go any farther, he's gonna draw a charge. So so I'm gonna spin or baby hook, or if nobody's there, or if somebody's coming from this way, then he spins the other way. Like, he just has this great feel for where the defense is at and where it's coming from and how to avoid it and how to score. And I know he's only scoring it feels like he's scoring more than 10 right now. And 10's not
part of
that
it,
much,
the free throw. If he
free throws is part of it.
Sure.
Sure.
and big guys, we've seen, especially in the modern game, we've seen big guys really be able to improve from the free throw line. I don't think his shot looks fixable. Like, it looks like he can be a better shooter. He doesn't have a hideous stroke or anything. Like, it's just. He just doesn't have a lot of touch,
the consistency. The consistency is what seems to be bad.
Yeah, he doesn't always do the same routine, all that stuff. So he was 3 of 7 from the line, and he still had over 106 offensive rating with that, because he only turned the ball over once.
Yep.
You guys that get I don't know if you remember, of course you do, but Sean Kemp, guys that make their living in doing post moves actually turn the ball over quite a bit, because they're getting called for travels and offensive fouls and stuff like that. But like
Balls
you said,
stripped,
Jackson just has such good spatial awareness, and he's got very good feet, and he's an athletic guy, so you can see his body control. Like you usually don't see it that much in like big strong guys like that, but you can see he's got body control, and that's why he's able to go through contact and draw fouls so well. And it's incredible. Like he really truly is skilled at drawing fouls. That's why he needs, like, if he can tick that up to 70-75%, like he'll be he'll be a monster. And that's really the only thing holding him back, because he started finishing from twos. He was struggling earlier in the season, actually finishing through contact. He's starting to finish, and he's gotten better. Like he's gotten better at his post moves in array, like going a different. He uses different moves. He had a beautiful little baby hook over Sorn. Like that was awesome. Like just knowing, that's just intelligence, knowing what to do in that situation, knowing what's going to work, because he had went right at Sorn, because he's probably stronger than Sorn, but Sorn is so tall, it has blocked his shot. So then he just went like, hey, I'll just do a little baby hook over him. And
lefty baby hook. Not just any baby hook, but he came over his right shoulder with a little lefty baby hook.
You remember when Aaron Baines, his junior year, and especially into his senior year, perfected that hook. Like he just became so tough to stop.
Well, yeah, when you're that strong and you're that broad, like that's a lot of space that you generate just by turning to the side.
Yep.
And
I brought up Baines because I think you talked about how Jackson was injured earlier in the season, and with big guys, it can, like, an injury can set them back so much, especially a guy that plays with strength so much. Because I don't know if you remember Baines' sophomore year, like he broke his foot in preseason and missed the first 6 games. Really took him, by the end of the season, he had taken over the starting spot from Ivory Clark and was playing really well, but he started out really slow. It's kind of reminded me of with Jackson, because they're both just huge bodied. I know people don't want to hear it, but Baines is pretty athletic. Like they're athletic guys.
Baines is super athletic.
Yeah,
that's how you play in the NBA.
Yeah, but yeah. So they remind me, like, Jackson seems like farther along than Baines was as a freshman, obviously.
Yeah,
and it's so exciting, like to see, because he seems like a guy, like you're at least gonna have him for like 3 years, probably. Like
seems like it,
because he just doesn't have that like wow athleticism. But
yeah,
he definitely seems like a guy that could play in the NBA especially if he gets better at rebounding. Like if he gets a better rebounder, and maybe some of that is he's playing alongside Effa, and there's not a lot of rebounds to grab, and it's not his job to grab them. That's often can be the case sometimes, but I'd like to see him be a better defensive rebounder in particular. But so far, like, you're talking about a freshman big, like these 2 freshman bigs that WSU has. Like, when does WSU ever have freshman bigs like this? And we have 2 of them. Like, it's
Never.
nuts, and like it's absolutely nuts. And that's why we really hope. I hope they can like use this and get some more W's down the stretch, so we can finish on a strong note here and leave this 6-game losing streak in the dust, because there's just so much to be excited about on this team, and it was fun to be excited about it, like while watching a game again.
Yeah.
But by the way, they did all this with 2 rotation players posting 0 offensive ratings.
I know. So that's where I was gonna get to was, man, are we panicking about Yakimovsky yet?
I mean, they definitely cut into his minute. Like DJ Rodman cut into his minutes this game for the first time, really.
Yep.
You kind of see why DJ was starting at the, like, maybe this is what Yakimovsky was doing like in preseason. It wasn't looking so great. Obviously Yaki has the higher ceiling of the 2. But it's just, he's not been shooting. And if he can't hit jump shots, that's kind of all his offensive game has been. Very rare. Like, I mean, we talked about this. Him and Rodman have almost identical offensive games in terms of what they do. They mostly shoot threes, and then they occasionally will drive to the rim if like someone closes out too hard or whatever. And that's pretty much what they are. And right now, Rodman is doing that a little better because he's actually hitting some of the threes. He hit one. He's not playing, like I will say he seems like he's playing better defense too. Like it's hard to get a read on that, but he seems like he's playing defense better, and he's a little more tenacious and going for rebounds and stuff. But although Yakimovsky probably just a better rebounder because of his length in general, but it's not. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see Rodman get a start over Yaki this weekend.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
And it's not a referendum on Yakimovsky or anything like that. It's just, man, he looks like a guy who he's just slumping, man, and he's pressing hard. And and the biggest thing is, like, when I watch him shoot, we marveled at his shot form, early in the year, like, oh man, look at that shot, and they all look like they're going in, and that's amazing, and all of those things, and his shooting form doesn't look good right now. Like he just looks really tight to me. Like the shot doesn't look fluid. He doesn't look fluid. Every time the ball's in his hand, he looks like, and so, you bring a guy like that off the bench. Okay. And now all of a sudden, all right, he comes in and, maybe, like go in there, shoot some, like go shoot, like you're coming off the bench, go shoot. We're not trying to establish anything. We're not trying to, execute the game plan right off the top the way you would when you're starting. Mm-hmm. You can take a lot of pressure off a guy, just simply moving him to the bench a little bit and then letting him come, bomb away a little bit. And I think that would be, I would be 100% on board with that plan. Smith sounded reluctant, when he talked about it last week, but that was before this game. And he was just, like, frankly, he was terrible in this game. Like, it was that was truly one of the worst performances I think I've seen in a long time.
Didn't like miss his 3-3-pointers, didn't take a free throw, didn't take a 2-pointer, didn't record a rebound, didn't record an assist, 2 turnovers, didn't record a block, didn't record a steal. Like, that's...
And 2 fouls.
2 fouls. Like,
in 10 minutes. And this is in 10 minutes.
18 minutes.
18 minutes. Sorry, I was looking at the...
possession,
yeah. But 18 minutes. Like, in 18 minutes...
You took 3 shots.
You don't accidentally come up with a rebound, and... it's... I feel bad for the kid. Like that sucks.
And he is a freshman, it's like...
Yeah, but, I mean, this happens to freshmen, and
so he's gone... He's his last 4 games, 0 for 4, 0 for 3, 0 for 1, 0 for 3 from 3. So he hasn't hit a 3 since USC. So he hasn't hit a 3 in, over 2 weeks. It's going to be, close to a month by the time he plays again, like... And so
a lot has been asked out of him.
Yeah, for sure. Like, he was playing huge minutes.
Hard.
Like,
and he was, I mean, let's not forget, he did come up really huge in a couple of games.
Arizona.
Like, he was really important. So, he's slumping. It happens,
Yeah, and he's got the tools. Like, you can see them. And so they're going to come back. But honestly, like, he's not playing well right now. Like, he needs a change. He needs a change. So, fully on board. Let's maybe see Rodman get a start.
I'm down with that.
And it's funny. Rapp just went over as well, back to his early season ways. I'm sure that his plus minus was amazing though. I don't know if it was.
I can tell you just a sec. I can tell you.
Vova had some great minutes.
I wanted to talk about Vova. Vova had that amazing tip at the end of the first half. He was very excited about that.
I think Elise Woodward was like, "Oh, I think that was Abagidi," and like Vova's sitting there jumping up and down.
He's
so
running
excited,
down the floor,
like,
flexing.
Pretty sure it was Vova. Pretty sure it was Vova. So he was he just was big. And he got in 12 minutes, 4 boards, 2 of 2. I don't he had 1 turnover, but that was Bonton's fault, honestly. Like he gave
Yeah.
him a pass in the lane.
I can't believe they credited that to him. That should have gone to Bonton. Because there's no way you can expect your 7'1" grizzly bear to catch that far away from the basket and do something with it. Like that ain't happening.
But they've tried that a few times with him, and it's like, guys,
no,
let's like maybe in practice he like catches it and dunks on people. I don't know. Like in the game, like he just looks like I don't see how he's going to make that journey from 12 feet to the basket without something. No. Without someone stepping in front of him or you know, so like it's too far out for him. But he definitely was that big person for 12 minutes that you want, and you know, spelled guys when foul trouble, of course, like, you know, Deshaun was in foul trouble and they needed him. One thing that Smith talked about was tightening the rotation. You can definitely see that starting. Tony Miller played 2 minutes. Otherwise, it was the top 9 that you would expect in the game. And I think you'll see those top 9 be the majority of the minutes going forward.
Well, and it was really even kind of more like a top 8, basically. Yeah. It was because Miller played, you know, whatever, his 2 minutes. And then it was, you know, Abogidi, Bonton, Jackson, Yakumovsky, Williams. And then Rodman, Markovetsky, and Rapp.
So the only one, when I say top 9, I would include, I think Bamba will still probably get some minutes.
He might have. I don't know. I think, you know, it certainly seems like the amount he's played has sort of correlated to whether Rapp has been available.
True.
And I don't know, watching that game, I mean, maybe he might have played 5 minutes, maybe. But I don't know that I watched that game and thought, boy, here's a spot where Bonton really would have gotten, you know, 10 minutes or something. Yeah. Or Bamba, sorry. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know that there was a spot there where I was thinking, yeah, he definitely, you know, would have used these minutes or would have been useful here. Or Smith probably wishes he could have turned to him right here. You know, he might have been useful for a little bit, but
against a zone too, it's like tough for him.
Right.
Right. But
you know. And he would have messed some stuff up with like offensive rebounds. He would have gotten in there, got his hands on some balls, you know, whatever. I mean, that he definitely would have contributed. I just don't think he probably would have played that much. I mean, he might have taken 5 minutes away from Rapp, but that's probably it. So I think these are the 8 guys you're going to mostly see. You know, you might see Miller for 5 minutes. You might see, depending on the matchup, you know, 5 to 10. You might see Bamba for 5 to 10. But I think these guys, you know, and you might see, and some of that might have to do with, you know, Markovetsky, right? Because he had kind of fallen out of favor just a little bit over the last handful of games. His minutes had kind of dwindled. Yeah. You know, so I think some of that, depending on matchups, you know, whether you see Miller for a little bit or Bamba for a little bit or Markovetsky for a little bit, just kind of depends on, you know, what size of guy you want to plug into that 8th spot.
Well,
for any given game.
I wouldn't be, like, if they want to go smaller, I wouldn't be shocked to see him take some minutes at the 3 from Yakumovsky as well.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's possible.
Just depends on, you know, who you're playing and but that's nice, you know, to have some guys that we can plug and play there. But yeah, I mean, 8 guys is a pretty standard college basketball rotation.
Yeah. Yep. And that's about where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no reason to go, unless you play a high tempo, you know, high, you know, possession style, you know, high press, whatever.
High press especially.
There's really no reason to go 9-10 deep once you've kind of figured out maybe the best way you can play. And I think now that they're healthy, I think that's the big thing. I think now that they're more or less healthy, most of that, you know, Smith can now tighten that up in a way that he probably wishes he could have done, you know, a little while ago. So, but yeah, it's exciting, man. It's exciting. And we're coming up on, so we got another road trip here, and then we got 5 in a row at home, which is exciting because, man, it feels like they've been on the road for freaking ever. But, you know, Oregon and then Oregon State, and, you know, maybe you can get the Oregon State game. Maybe they can get Oregon. I don't know, you know.
Should we take a break because we just talked about one basketball game for about half as long as the basketball game went. We'll take a break and then we'll preview this upcoming weekend and we'll talk about volleyball, women's hoops, soccer, football schedule is out. This is gonna be a long episode. I already know. Sorry, Jeff. I know you have grading to do, but let's take a break and then we'll come back and talk more.
And we're back. I need to tell you, I'm not doing any more grading tonight.
Good.
It's just a matter of when I get to go to bed.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So
I know. I didn't even realize how much we had talked at this point, and I'm looking down at my screen now. I'm going, oh my gosh! We talked for a long time.
That's what we get for winning. God, imagine if we swept a weekend. How long?
I make no apologies
if
for
we
talking
sweep
about
a
win over
weekend.
Washington.
Yeah, if we sweep a weekend, if the men's hoops team sweeps a weekend, we're probably gonna have to record a separate episode just to talk about that, and then we'll record another episode.
Part B.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hey, so what you drinking, Craig?
So
maybe I should talk first. I don't know.
You should talk first. I just had a exploding beer. You talk for a sec, and I'm gonna go get a towel.
All right. Well, now that I'm back on the wagon, or off the wagon, I don't know. It's off the wagon, I think. I had a little Reuben's Crush, little Reuben's PNW Crush, a little juicy hazy IPA. A delicious way to break my fast with drinking beer. So that was good and very exciting. And I have missed my beer. Let me tell you, it's exciting to. I didn't think I would get excited. I haven't been this excited about a beer since I was a freshman in college. So
all right, I'm back.
It's good. All right.
What are you drinking?
What are you having?
Well, what were you drinking?
Oh, did you miss? You didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, I was getting a towel. I was being serious.
Well, I know, but I thought you were back. I'm having a Reuben's PNW Crush.
Nice.
Is what I'm having. Yes, nice. The very drinkable, very juicy, hazy IPA. And like I said, I haven't been this excited about a beer since I was a freshman at Stevenson. So.
Very good.
Good. What about you?
So earlier I was drinking. I wanted to from a very small new brewery, but it's a collaboration with Structures, with a brewery called Fast Fashion, who I honestly I don't know a lot about. I'm pretty sure they're tied to the Masonry, the beer bar / pizza place. There's a couple spots in Seattle. Because that seems to be who's been promoting them, and kind of that's where you buy their beer and stuff. So somehow connected to Masonry. So they're like a new brewery called Fast Fashion in Seattle, and they did a collaboration with Structures. So it was brewed at Structures, which is in Bellingham. I believe we've talked about Structures on here before. Great brewery, called Too Fast, Too Fashionable. Of course, a wink to the Too Fast, Too Furious movie, which some people just love that series. Very, very popular. But this is, as a hazy IPA, it was a good hazy IPA, but it was just, a hazy IPA. It's got all the good hops, Galaxy, Nelson, Mosaic, all that good stuff, double IPA. Real nice and easy to drink. Nothing kind of it was well made. It's what they all taste like these days. The one I just opened that exploded all over me is a beer I have several of that, but I've been saving for just opening on. And this you're gonna laugh when it's the beer that exploded all over, and when I decide to open it. But it's a DAB Dortmunder Export. The original Dortmunder from Germany, brewed in Dortmund, Germany.
Wow.
Which I have like a stash of, which I meant to drink while watching the matches, and I suddenly realized I don't really like drinking beer that much at 6:30 in the morning while sitting in my living room. It's not that fun.
Or at 11:45 a.m. on a weekday.
On a weekday, yeah, that wasn't happening. So I've been saving it, like, maybe big wins, but those have been
those have been hard to come
by for Dortmund this season. But hey, they just did. It was a miserable, like, disgusting affair, but they just advanced to the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal for the first time in like 4 years. So hey, they did that. Like Leverkusen and Bayern are out of that tournament. Yep. That is our best chance to get a trophy this year. So I'm all in on the DFB Pokal. So, like, I am excited about this win, even though you and I were not having very much fun watching that today because it was a goddamn miserable VAR fest. Like,
dude, our team, our German team, is so much like our Cougs. Like, we watch them and we're just waiting for the dumb shit to happen. Like, it feels like every game right now is Cow Week with BVB. It's like my God, like what's gonna go wrong? Who's gonna get hurt?
And of
who's
course,
gonna not make a shot? Who's gonna miss a penalty? Like,
I opened this beer that's been doing nothing but sit in my fridge for like a few months, and it explodes all over the place. Like, it's not perfectly fitting. I got it all over my pants. Like, I smell like beer. Let's do the rest of the podcast while smelling like beer. All right. So all right. So this weekend, men's hoops at the Organs, as you said.
Yep.
As you said, hoping you get that Oregon State one for sure. Like, that's the one this weekend that you're like, if you want to finish strong in the season, especially if you want to finish with like a winning record and all that, like, this is one you probably got to get. So that Oregon State game, but we'll start with the Oregon one. WSU hasn't played Oregon yet this year. They probably aren't as good as I thought they would be earlier in the season, but they're still pretty good, especially on the road. Tough game. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? What are your thoughts heading into this one?
So I haven't watched Oregon play at all. One thing that I find interesting about them is they're pretty small. So they don't go any bigger than 6'8" in terms of regular rotation players.
Yeah.
But they're also not small either. like they're like four of their starters are 6'6", 6'6", 6'6", and 6'8". And their starting point guard 6'2", their backup point guard 6'4", and it's like, okay, so they're not small in the sense that, they've got good length everywhere, and so that's the, that's kind of been Dana Altman's, calling card, is get these guys who are versatile and long, and they just bother you really all over the place. And what's wild about them is, so they've got the 36th best defense in the country in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency. They put opponents on the free throw line at a little bit higher rate than you would expect for a defense that's that good. And then what's wild is teams make like 80% of their free throws against Oregon.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Like, hey, you know what? Maybe Oregon's free throw defense is just that bad that we can do that. It's possible.
It's true.
So anyway, it's just, I don't know. Like, I just find that interesting that a team, so good at that, and what they do that, again, they're kind of, and I don't know, how much they zone, how much they man to man, but they sort of have, they have a little bit of the profile that like Jim Boeheim's matchup zone teams used to have, where they'll give up a bunch of threes, but the percentage on the threes is really low. And we talk on the podcast about how, the conventional wisdom with 3-point shooting is, or 3-point defense is, the only thing you can really control is whether a team takes a 3-point attempt or not. Like, if you're closing out on them, and you're making the 3-pointer really tough, they're probably passing it up. And so you can literally suppress 3-point attempts with your defense. Typically when you allow a lot of 3-point attempts, then you're sort of rolling the dice. Well, every once in a while there are defenses that are so to borrow a catchphrase, long and athletic on the perimeter, that they both give up a lot of threes, while also making those threes really difficult. And it also typically correlates with long defensive possessions, and Oregon does that too. So they're 211th, 17.3 seconds per offense or defensive possession. So they make you work. And a lot of times you end up settling for a contested three. Basically, that's what the stat profile says. So, that may or may not be good for us. We're not a great 3-point shooting team anyway. So, we'll kind of see where that goes. But that's definitely the first thing that sticks out to me, kind of in looking at the matchup for sure.
So one thing we should mention is that we're not even 100% sure this game's going to happen. Like Oregon skipped its last two games.
True.
Skipped its last two games because of being in COVID protocol. Obviously, that could happen to any team at any point. So, but in terms of like these are definitely up. This is definitely up in the air a little bit. Although Smith is talking like it's going to happen. So Oregon lately has been kind of bitten by this, but they did have one 6'11" guy who was injured for the season. He'd be a big factor for them, Dante, but he's out for the year. They had the same thing happen with Bol last year, so bummer for Altman. He's been coaching.
I feel so heartbroken for Oregon.
Yeah. But
let me tell you.
But yeah, he's been his prized recruits are coming in and just getting hurt. That's I don't know if Dante will bolt to the NBA, but he's definitely a good player. But so Duarte, who's one of their better players, was out COVID protocols last game. That was who knows how that was like Oregon State, so that was it'll be 2 weeks before this game at that point. So I think that if that's all, and he didn't get really sick, like he'll probably be fine and play. But yeah, so if it does happen, yeah, like you said, that they have an interesting profile, and you hope that WSU, the size again is something they can exploit. And even though they're a pretty good defensive rebounding team, maybe still they can. I don't know. Like it just seems like WSU has overcome that just because like the talent, like the offensive rebounding talent of FA and of Deshaun, and they've been able to kind of bother teams, and Vova too. I should give them credit for that too. But yeah, so maybe they can get after him there. I mean, there's not a lot on defense. Their 2-point percentage defense, so maybe really the size is what you hope. It's even with Noah attacking the rim, and you only got to worry about a 6'6" guy down there. Maybe that's good too. So yeah, I think you've seen WSU attack inside against teams that struggle to defend inside. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them go after Oregon inside again, and maybe that's the way you can gum this game up, get some easy points, and because defensively, it's just Oregon. It's interesting is they shoot really well inside the arc. Like that's kind of what they do. They go at the rim quite a bit, 39% of their shots. They shoot well at the rim, 63%, which, given the size of their players is really impressive. Like Duarte is shooting 72% at the rim. Omoyuri, 63%. So even these smaller guys, 6'6" guys, are very good at attacking the rim. So we'll definitely need, you got to hope that, the size again, FA and Deshaun and Vova can just bother them. This does not seem like a game that Vova will get many minutes, to be honest.
No. Duarte's awesome. Like if he plays, he missed the game against Oregon State and they lost. Not that necessarily one guy should make that much of a difference, but he is really, 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 really good.
He's 46% from 3, 65% from 2, 87% from the line. He's that's absurd numbers. Yeah.
We were talking about how our 6'5" shooting guard, we're hoping he gets to like 48, 49% on twos. This 6'6" guard is making 65% of his twos. So to go 45 from 3, 65 from 2, and 87 from the free throw line is like That's really, really,
and
really
he's
good.
just very athletic because he blocks shots,
Yep.
he steals. Like
Yep.
he's just an all around.
He's the
athletic.
linchpin.
Yeah. So yeah, he's the one. Yeah, they don't really have like their guy that's camping in the lane is going to send shots away, but they have guards that will block. If you go at them, they can block your shots. So yeah. So
but their 2-point defense is only so.
That's so. This is what we hope. Score inside. Maybe win the 3-point lottery. I think we're due for that.
Yeah.
Because they do allow a lot of threes, like you said.
Yep.
So maybe hopefully, hey Yaki, DJ, come on, hit. You get 3 shots, hit 2 of them. Come on.
And this should be a game where FA, I talked about how FA found some room in the last game. This should be.
I'm liking FA.
This should be another one of those games. I mean, I'll give you even one more. They are the worst 2-point defense in Pac-12 play. Mm-hmm. They're giving up 55% on twos in Pac-12 play.
83% on free throws.
Yeah, free throw defense gets you every time.
They've only played Colorado once. That's amazing.
So the big thing is, if there ever was a game for us to break out of our give the ball away situation, this would be the one. They steal a ton. So Oregon basically, again, you can only kind of conclude so much from looking at the stats, but their stat profile is that of a team that gambles on defense. So they'll give up some twos, but they're also going to steal the ball a ton. They're number 1 in the conference in steal percentage in conference play. They steal the ball on 12% of opponent possessions. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, they're trying to generate turnovers. They're trying to chase you off. They're trying to make your three-point attempts tough. They're trying to make you work real hard on offense, and it's working for them, obviously. So, it's taking care of the ball a little bit in this one would really go a long way. I mean, look, we saw in the first half against Washington what happens, right? They only had 5 turnovers in the first half, and they had 1 million offensive rebounds. They're not going to get those against Oregon. Oregon's a great defensive rebounding team despite their size, which is really impressive. But you saw what happened when you don't turn the ball over and you get some offensive rebounds. All of a sudden you get this, what we call shot volume, where it's like, if you just simply get up a shot, some good things can happen. Either the shot goes in or you miss the shot, but you get the offensive rebound and maybe you put that one in. Turnovers, obviously, nothing good can happen. And so if in this game, it sure would be nice if they could keep turnovers down around like 15 or less. Give themselves a chance. You know?
Because Oregon doesn't turn the ball over.
No.
I mean, you have the team that turns the ball over the most in the conference versus the team that turns the ball over the least in the conference. So that's if you're looking for a reason why WSU is going to lose this game, like if it's just kind of too much to overcome, like they could play really well and the turnovers could be their doom. So they really need to and again, it's tough to say that they will because they just haven't shown it.
Yeah, this just screams out a game. This screams out an Ernie Kent game where they make a bunch of shots and you go, man, it sure felt like the offense was better than that. But the reason why is 18, 19 turnovers, right? And it makes it real tough when you come up with those empty possessions. So I don't know. This is, like you said, this is who they are. You just maybe I think hope you get because I have sort of given up on the idea that somehow Kyle Smith and the other coaches are going to coach it out of them. So maybe you just hope for variance and that this is just a game where they get away with some passes that they don't always get away with. I mean Bonton, for as much as I loved him, he made some passes against Washington where I'm like, oh my God, like the one where he whipped it from the opposite side through the key. It was like okay,
an incredible pass,
great, but... incredible pass, but oh my God, what are you doing? That's just who they are. So this would be a great game for some variance where they just have an unreasonably low turnover percentage and maybe generate some extra points out of that for sure.
I do think especially the way WSU's defense has been trending, they can give Oregon trouble defensively. At least hold down the shooting percentages and then clear the glass. because they're probably not going to turn the ball over. WSU doesn't force many, and Oregon doesn't give it away. So if they can just prevent, interior buckets, and they can make it tough inside, and avoid getting rained on from threes like some teams have done, I could see them at least holding that part of it down. But again, if WSU is going to lose the turnover, battle, if they're going to give it away 22% of the time and Oregon's going to give it away 14% of the time, in terms of like total numbers, when, if you're looking at 18 versus 10 at the end of the game, that's going to be 8 times that Oregon got a shot up and you didn't. So that's, so if you're thinking, even if Oregon's only shooting 40% and they make 3 or 4 of those shots, then like that's the game right there. So, again,
you're talking a difference of like 6 to 10 points, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just from that.
So hold on to the damn ball for once, please, God. All right. So that's great. That's what an Oregon upset would look like. But Oregon State, obviously, they've already beaten them once this year.
Yep.
It was an ugly game. It was very much an early season WSU game, which many of them looked like. Oregon State has come up with some shocking wins. Taking down USC, Oregon obviously with Duarte out, but still like to beat them on the road. Arizona State, that's not really a shocking win to grab, and Cal isn't, but they've played,
especially a couple weeks ago.
So that's they've got some like wins, like they maybe look a little better than they did when WSU played them in December 5th or whatever day it was, December 2nd. But they're still like not great, like Ethan Thompson he's definitely done a little bit. Like he was really struggling with the shot volume. They seem to have ticked him down a little bit. He is not shooting at the volume that he was early in the season, like where he was like at Bonton and levels. And now he's much lower, and his efficiency has kicked up quite a bit because of that. Because he never really projected as a player that's going to be like that break it down and make take all the shots guy. Like he's definitely a great shooter and a good offensive player, but he's more of a catch and shoot and
he's a point guard.
Yeah,
he really is a point guard. Like he. You would think maybe he'd be able to score a little better at 6'5", than he does. But, he's just, it was pretty clear that he's just not, like his offensive ability isn't diverse enough to carry that kind of a load. And his season shooting percentage is 30%, 31% from 3, 44% from 2. Like he's getting to the line at a good rate. That's about the only thing that's saving his overall offensive rating. And in conference, his offensive rating's around 100, but like you said, his possessions, his usage has dipped. Shooting has come up a little bit on 2s. Now it's gone down on 3s. But again, getting to the line quite a bit. So yeah, that's going to be the key for us, I think, is, keep him off the line. Don't let him get those easy free points. And make some other guys beat you. I'm not sure who the guys are that are beating people these days, because they're playing. They have played, like you mentioned, a little bit better. Beating USC, I think, is the one that kind of makes your eyes pop. But I think we also are like, USC's kind of prone to those things because. Yeah, they're not the kind of that well coached.
The high variance guy that always worry. I always worry about the variance guys, like the guys that can is like Jared Lucas, just because he's such a good shooter. He's a guy, if you leave him open too much, like if you leave him open, he'll probably hit the 3. He's a guy that can go like 5 or 6 from 3 and screw you over. And he's good at getting the free throw line and is ridiculously good free throw shooter, like 50 of 53 so far this year, which is like crazy. And he was 87% last year, so it's not a fluke. So he's a guy that like you can't let shoot. Like, force him inside where he sucks. Like, just don't foul. Just let one of those guys you just got to kind of force off the line and then let him shoot the mid range, and it's probably going to go a lot better for you. Like he's kind of that classic, I guess, classic modern player. All or nothing. So yeah, again, they're not super big. They play a lot of players. We'll see how he seems to have kept this rotation, this deep rotation, into Pac-12 play. They're still probably playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. So I guess that's 8. But then there's another 2 or 3 that still might play. But I think probably what you're going to see most likely is a couple 6'10" guys that rotate out. Kalu was pretty solid, if I remember, against WSU the first time, but he's pretty inefficient. Looks like a guy that WSU can hold down offensively. Maybe pick on a bit defensively because he doesn't block a lot of shots. That could be a guy that maybe FA could have a good game against as well, because they're kind of roughly similar in terms of size and strength. But FA is more athletic because, he's more athletic than most people. So maybe this is another game where FA can come through. And just Bonton wasn't great against them the first time. He wasn't really good against them the first time. So if we can get Bonton playing well against Oregon State this time, I'd feel good about their chances. Oregon State isn't great. They don't force a lot of turnovers, and they don't turn the ball over very much, but they don't force a lot of turnovers. So you hope that maybe that can take our turnovers down a little bit. They're the best team at defending 3-pointers in conference play. Them in Oregon. That's always to me, that we've talked about this a lot. I don't know how much what that means. That just means to me they could hold you down from 3, or it could just go crazy and you could still hit a normal percentage and it doesn't really matter, because it's either the best teams give up 31% and the average is 34%. So it's what is that maybe half a 3 a game. So it doesn't really make much of a difference. So if that's the linchpin. And the funny thing is, Jeff, you talked about Oregon being the worst free throw defense team. Wayne Tinkle has it figured out. Oregon State is the best defensive free throw team. So watch out, Cougs. Maybe they're just really good at fouling the worst free throw shooters on the team. So maybe there's going to be hacking Deshaun and it's
possible.
But yeah, so they beat him once. I don't see this being the same sort of grinder that one was. I do in terms of possessions, but I think the offenses will both be. Well, I think WSU's offense will be better. Maybe Oregon State's offense will be better too, but if WSU can be better on offense than they were in the first game, I like their chances.
Yeah. It feels like a coin flip type game.
Yeah.
Ken Palm predicts it as a 2-point win for Oregon State, 58, Captain Math, 58% of the time for the Beavers, which, might seem like if you're sitting there thinking wow, that seems heavily towards, it's not heavily towards the Beavers. That's anything between 40 and 60 is pretty much a coin flip. It's you're right there. It's, 2 evenly matched teams. So, I would not be surprised by really either outcome here at all. And I think it's a team. I'm not going to say it's a team we should beat, but I'm definitely going to say it's a team we could beat.
Let's say in the first,
I'd feel good if we did.
In the first game, Jackson was almost a non-factor. He played 9 minutes, and he really was still.
Yep.
That's huge to have him now, because they can run those 2 frontline bigs, where Oregon State's only running 1 big really at a time, one true big, a 6'10" big. So they're going to have 2 6'10s on the floor, and Oregon State's not. That's that. And before they didn't do that, FA played the 5 against Oregon the first game, and Yakimovsky played the 4. So this is, you're going to have Yakimovsky or Rodman at the 3, and then you're going to have FA and Jackson at the 4 and 5. That's going to make a difference. I mean, and Kuntz played 29 minutes in the first game, like, and he wasn't he wasn't bad, but it's still like, he's not even going to play in this game. Let's be honest. Like,
he didn't play
like,
against
he might
Washington.
play, but it's probably going to be dictated by fouls. So like the rosters are different. I mean, and like I said, like I think largely you're going to see a lot of the same guys that Oregon State played in the first game, but they're kind of doing a better job at distributing the shots and stuff, and they held Ethan Thompson down in the first game. I think they could probably do that again. Noah's going to catch him, and we'll see. We'll see how he does with that. And so I think like if WSU can get to like if WSU gets to 1 point per possession in this game, they're going to win. Like I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if Bonton, instead of shooting 4 for 18, shoots 7 for 18, that's pretty good.
Yep. I'm with you.
Win the game. I just want you to win the goddamn game. All right.
Get a sweep so we can go bonkers and have a 2-part episode.
Yeah, and so we're already at almost an hour and a half, and we've only talked about men's basketball. Let's run.
We'll be back on Friday with other thoughts.
No, we won't. We don't have time for that shit. Come on. So what do you want to talk about? Let's believe. So women's hoops.
Well, okay. Women's hoops.
That
was a bummer.
They had to play Stanford twice. That sucks. They're still bracketology predicted 9th on ESPN, or like a 9 seed on ESPN. So
9 seed,
really,
feel good about a 9
like
seed.
we said before, they just got to rack up wins, and they have UCLA and USC, so they have a chance for good wins this weekend.
Especially UCLA.
Yeah, and you definitely got to beat that, get that USC game, I think, for sure. But if they could sweep this weekend, things are looking very, very good. Obviously, they nearly beat each team on the road, so you can hope that they can turn that around at home. Obviously, hopefully start better than they did in both of those games. Yeah. It was more of in USC, it was more of a third quarter swoon, but let's not go into the fourth quarter with a double-digit deficit and see what happens.
No,
let's not do it.
I agree. That's a bad plan.
By the way, Charlize Ledger-Walker was a nomination for Sports Star of the Year in Seattle. I'm kind of wondering what freshman athlete at WSU has ever had, especially in a team sport, had quite the impact that she has had. Like, it's very impressive. But yeah, so obviously we're just running out of time here, but I wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bummer. Like, Stanford's really
Stanford is so stacked. Like,
it's crazy.
Man,
I can't believe they lost 2 games.
Like, I can't believe they lost those 2 games. They must have just been like bored. I don't know. Like, they're so like I think they very much were in their minds were like, we have never lost to WSU, and we're sure as fuck not going to lose to WSU now. And they just defensively, they shut down Charlize, and because like you saw the ripple effect of that, but no other team has been able to so far. So hopefully she can get back on track this weekend, and let's pick up some wins. Let's get some good vibes going again. So got a shout out to the volleyball team. They're 3-1 to start the season. So the volleyball is doing a spring season where you travel to a team and you just play both their games. So they split with Oregon at home the first weekend, and then this weekend they went down to Arizona State and took them out twice. Really thriller of a comeback 5-set win on a Friday, and then on Sunday they. It may have been Thursday, Saturday. It was Thursday, Saturday. Yeah. So Saturday they came through and just they lost the first set and they just completely dominated the last 3 sets to beat Arizona State. So a nice sweep, and now they're ranked 24th, which is just like an impressive program. They're mostly sophomores, and one of their better outside hitters is a 6'5" freshman. Bethany Dalton, I want to say, is her name. And Timmer is just a very impressive kind of all-around player. I've learned, Jeff, I don't know how many of you watch, like these the kind of the hitter from the back line has become like very prevalent in volleyball apparently, and it's like a strategy. So Timmer will be playing in the back line, but they'll be setting up for her for the kill quite often. And I don't know, man. I think volleyball is super fun to watch. So it's been fun following them and following the program. So hopefully that keeps going.
It is super fun to watch. I definitely am not watching it closely enough to make any judgments about strategy. So
I will say
I will trust you on that.
I will say, like, I'm not going to take the credit for that. There was a guy that called the WSU WSU Oregon matches for Pac-12 Network, and he was really good. It was only him, and you could tell he's just
I know which guy you're talking about. He's really good.
He's just a volleyball head. And and he was just really enjoying it, and he was doing a really good job of explaining these things. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Football schedule. We can complain about the fact that we are going to skip a home Apple Cup.
Yeah, that sucks.
Screw that.
It
sucks big time.
I guess they're just trying to get back on the same cadence, but it sucks for those of us.
I imagine non-conference schedule plays into it because they get scheduled based off of how many home and road Pac-12 games there are. So
because WSU would have, I
imagine they couldn't flip
if they would have had the same schedule. If they would have had a 2020 home road Pac-12 schedule along, they would have had 8 home games. So that
right.
Yep. I mean, Pullman would love that if there was fans allowed. They'd be like, "Yeah, please, we need one to make up."
But then the following year, you'd have like 5.
Yeah. So
and I know for a fact WSU, plans out their future schedules to try and have 7 home games every year. Yep. Like that's the goal, is to have 7 home games every year, which they don't always succeed at, but that's what they're always trying for. So I assume that's why they didn't flip anything, but they also could have at least done the rivalry game and said, okay, we can flip that with another game where, that's a road game and that's a home game, and, switched them. So, like, for example, would we have been super sad if we flip-flopped Washington and Oregon State next year?
No.
Where,
let's go play at Oregon. We play in Corvallis.
Let's play Oregon State on the road twice. Oh, no. But in order to get a home Apple Cup back. Like, that would have been really nice. I don't think anybody would have complained about that, but and it wouldn't have messed up, anybody's schedule. But whatever. I don't know. It's it is what it is.
Oregon State's schedule. I don't know. Maybe they would have ended up with 8 home games. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. But I don't know. The Pac-12, they're not all about like trying to solve problems. So whatever, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll dig more into the schedule.
It's going to be fun to play Utah 3 years in a row in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, great. That's fun. What an easy and fun place to play. Very cool. We'll dig more into that. Especially when there's dates.
Yep.
I mean, there's 3 dates, but not the Pac-12 dates. I guess that's all. We ran through that pretty quickly, so good job.
Yeah.
This is mostly a men's hoops podcast today.
Yeah. For this one.
But yeah, sorry, when hopefully we'll
That's what happens when you beat Washington, man. Like that is what it is,
Yeah. And plus, Jeff and I nerd out over that. So, so give us a 5-star rating on your favorite service. Leave a review. We have some funny negative reviews I'll get to next week, which have been funny. But don't leave a negative review. If you leave a bad review, like if you want to leave a negative review, feel free. But just leave a 5-star rating with it.
Be like 5 stars. This show sucks.
Yes, that's fine. I don't care.
5 stars.
I don't care. If you want to do that, I will laugh all day. But we like the 5-star ratings. They make us show up more, and when people search for WSU podcasts and sports podcasts and stuff like that. So if you do us a solid and rate, that would be nice. And also tell your Coug friends about the podcast. That would be nice as well. People aren't listening to podcasts as much right now. We'd like more people to listen to our podcast. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't
nice.
know. Maybe I don't want to be people holding me accountable for what I say.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. If you want to follow us on Twitter, got Pod versus Everyone. Pod vs Everyone is Jeff, and at the Craig Powers is me. If you want to email us, we love those. We didn't get any this week, so I don't have any to read. But that's podcastvseveryone@gmail.com. Podcastvseveryone@gmail.com. Send us questions, comments, whatever. I love them. I love reading them. We'll probably read if you have questions, we'll do them online on the podcast. I know we still had a request to talk about the QB situation. We'll get to that. Don't worry. We'll get to it. But yeah, so that's it. That's all. Let's get more hoops wins. I want to see 4 hoops wins this weekend. Would be just great. Let's do that.
That would be rad. I'd be down with that.
All right, go Cougs, Jeff.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.